All right, welcome everyone. It looks like we're all trickling in now. If the other panelists, you're welcome to have your videos on if you want, but the panel will get started in just a few minutes. So if you prefer to be incognito, you can do that as well until the panel begins. I hope you all had some very helpful and productive discussions. I'm going to, before we start our panel, we wanted to make sure that everybody knows all of the resources and services that you currently have access to at CAPS and the Career Center, and also what you'll have access to after graduation. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Nicole Green.
Great. Great.
Can you see the slide, Nicole, that I have?
I can.
Okay, great.
Is this I think there's a next one. Great. Just so everybody's aware of what is available to you as students, CAPS is open for all telehealth services currently for all registered useless students. So that's students that don't have SHIP insurance and students that do have SHIP insurance. So I think what's important for you to know as students is that we've suspended session limits, and so if you are someone that doesn't have student-ship insurance and you're graduating truly in June, meaning you don't have any other classes to take over the summer or in the fall, that you're eligible for services through the end of the quarter, which is June 15th. If you have SHIP, then your spring SHIP covers summer SHIP, and so if you're a graduating senior and you do have SHIP insurance, then your services can continue all the way until the day before fall quarter, which is all summer, which is all the way through September. And right now we don't have session limits for either non-SHIP or SHIP. So for the non-SHIP students who are graduating in the summer, you are still eligible for services, again, all the way through September. But if you're graduating in June, your services will end. So if you need a few sessions before and you're non-SHIP, I would hurry up and call CAPS. We have pretty open availability this quarter. I know everybody thinks because of COVID there would be more stress, but we've been finding that not as many students are contacting us. So we actually do have quite a bit of availability. So I would encourage you to check in and try to get some services before you graduate. The other thing to know is that we've started running some groups as well. So to initiate service by telephone, what you need to do, all you need to do is that you need to call our main line, 310-825-0768, and we have telephone triage appointments available 9 to 4 Monday through Thursday and 9 to 3 on Fridays. And you can attend a same-day Zoom triage appointment, which will just help get an assessment of what your needs are and help to make a referral to therapy at CAPS or somewhere else if that's necessary, and to meet your needs. So every student should start with a triage appointment by calling the CAPS main line. Again, we do individual therapy, we do psychiatric services, we do group therapy. If you don't have SHIP, therapy is still $15 a session. If you do have SHIP, all the services are prepaid with your SHIP plan. And for psychiatry services, SHIP services are covered. For non-SHIP students, psychiatry is actually more expensive, and you can talk with a triage clinician about this. It's $150 for an intake and $75 for a follow-up visit, but we are trying to be as accommodating with billing and fee waivers as necessary. So if you're not able to pay those fees and you are referred to psychiatry and you don't have SHIP, we will work with you on what you can afford. I think those are all the services that I wanted to go over. We have a 24-hour crisis line, which is our same CAPS number. During the day, we have a support staff that picks up and will refer you to a clinician. At night, if you call our service after 5 o'clock, you will be immediately responded to by a clinician. I just wanted to plug RISE. RISE is our wellness center that really helps to help you cultivate resilience and stress management and your own self-care. We're offering a number of virtual programs, virtual coaching sessions. We're offering meditation, yoga, videos, supportive videos. So please check out our website, risecenter.com, to understand what the resources are at the Rise Center that are just for your health and well-being. That's it.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And I will be giving a brief overview of the Career Center services. I want to apologize if it looks awkward. I'm going to be looking at a different screen while I look at the slides. But a brief overview. So currently, as current UCLA students, we are offering all of our advising sessions virtually via Zoom, and you can schedule these through your Handshake account. There is availability right now, just as Nicole was saying, for CAPS, so please don't hesitate to log in and schedule an appointment. Okay, let's see. There we go. We also have drop-in sessions, which are 15-minute. You don't need an appointment. It's every Tuesday through Thursday from 10 to 2. And those drop-in sessions are really great for resume review, cover letter, or questions about your job and internship search. Feel free to, you can find the link on our website, career.ucla.edu. Oh. There we go. We have a number of events and workshops, just like this one, which you can access through Handshake. And we also have career fairs and employer information sessions, which are all listed in Handshake as well. Upcoming, we have 2 career fairs next week, which are hosted in collaboration with the entire UC consortium. And we have almost 200 employers signed up to participate in those. So these are for their hiring. Michelle will probably talk a little bit more about that during the panel, so I won't steal her thunder, but please do take a look in Handshake in the fair section to be informed and see which employers are participating. We also have on-campus recruiting, which are, it's your opportunity to interview with employers through the Career Center. The postings are within the jobs section of Handshake. Sorry, it keeps linking me out to, okay. There are currently thousands of active internship full-time positions listed in Handshake, and Michelle will be talking a little bit more about this, but the employers are actively recruiting. There are many, many active live opportunities to please take advantage of. So, and then we also have within Handshake and on our website a number of articles, resources that we subscribe to for you. So these are paid services that you have free access to, including Interview Stream to help you with your virtual interviewing skills. We have Vault, which helps you do industry and company research to make yourself as effective a candidate as possible and to explore career options, and a number of others which we'll probably be talking about later on in the panel, but please feel free to access those through your Handshake account. As alumni, so once you do graduate, please know that you have full access to everything that the Career Center does for 3 months after graduation. So just the same as if you were a student, you can access everything that we do, including one-on-one appointments. After that 3-month period, then for a full year, you'll still have access to Handshake for alumni, which will give you access to on-campus interview job listings. So almost all of the job and internship postings will still be live for you for a year after that 3-month period. And you can also attend career fairs and networking events and access all of the online services through Handshake. You basically would just not have access to the one-on-one services such as appointments and on-campus interviews. And please also check out the Alumni Association, alumni.ucla.edu/careers, as they also provide career development support for UCLA alumni. We also want to let you know that your experience matters to us. Whatever that is, we want to know what your next steps are, even if you don't know yet. So even if you're not sure, even if you're still figuring things out, or whether you've landed a job internship or you've been admitted to graduate school, whatever it is, we encourage you to please take the First Destination survey. The link is on the website, cyro.ucla.edu/FDS. It's a brief survey, and every 100th participant will receive a $100 Amazon gift card. So please take a moment to let us know where you are in your process. We greatly appreciate it. And with that, we are going to dive into our Career Center panel on navigating your post-graduation job search. I wanted to make some technical announcements first. So if you're experiencing any technical issues, please let us know in the chat and we'll try to address those as quickly as possible. But if you have any questions that you'd like Career Center or CAP staff to be able to answer, either on the panel or by typing, go ahead and use the Q&A function for that. So again, we're going to use the Q&A for content questions that you want addressed by the panelists. The chat will just be for technical issues. After the panel at about 1:10, we're going to start verbally addressing some of the questions we've been receiving through the Q&A, and we'll stay on until 1:30 to continue to answer those. So before we jump into the panel, we wanted to assess who's in the audience, where you all are currently. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll. If you could please take a few seconds to let us know what your current post-grad plans or goals, and also where you currently are in the job search process, just so that we have a pulse of who's in our audience so we can kind of target our panel responses. Give me just a few more seconds as I see some people are still entering their responses. Okay, and go ahead and share those results. So it looks like the majority are seeking full-time positions, followed by taking a gap year before graduate and professional school or seeking internship opportunities. And the majority are also currently actively searching and applying for jobs or are planning to begin very shortly. So thank you so much for sharing. And with that, we will move into the panel. So I will ask the panelists to please briefly introduce yourselves and your roles in the order in which you appear on the screen.
Again, hi, Nicole Green, Executive Director of Counseling and Psychological Services.
Hello again, Karina Salazar, Senior Associate Director of the Career Center.
I am Michelle Ryan. I'm Associate Director for Industry Relations and Experiential Learning at the Career Center.
Hi, I'm Jordan Manis, the Program Director for Early Engagement at the Career Center.
Hello, I'm Precious Robinson. I'm Program Director for Graduate and Professional School Planning at the UCLA Career Center.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kathy Kim Greenberg, and I am a Career Engagement Educator at the UCLA Career Center.
All right. Here I am. Okay, welcome to our panelists. And I'd like to start us off with an overview of the current hiring landscape. So Michelle, could you please address how is the hiring landscape changing in light of COVID-19? Please include an overview of which industries are hardest hit and where there are new opportunities.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that absolutely the hiring landscape has changed. COVID and the inability for people to actually go to work has extremely disrupted normal hiring and just industries in general. I will say that the timing of it is also a really big deal. This didn't happen in the fall, right before, we all went on winter break. This is happening right before a lot of students were starting internships, before they were starting full-time jobs, while they were still accepting offers from employers, while they were still interviewing. Not that there's ever a good time for something like this to happen, but I think the timing really affected hiring, as a lot of students and employers were in the midst of doing so. So absolutely, we acknowledge this is a huge change. I think one of the pieces that is the most important to acknowledge is the level of uncertainty. As uncertain as you are about your future, as uncertain as we are about even just, being able to deliver services in the way that we'd like, employers are very uncertain about how they're going to continue, how long before they can get back to business as usual, and even just, their own industries. They don't know how long this is going to go on for, and so it creates a lot of uncertainty for everyone. So that being said, there are certainly some areas that are being harder hit than others. Man, food service has been hit really hard, in hospitality. Those kinds of industries are really struggling to figure out not just what they're going to do right now, but how are they going to innovate in the future to be able to get back into business. Arts and entertainment is a huge one. We live in Los Angeles, and there's a huge industry here who can't operate. We can't go and start filming. We can't provide any sort of entertainment, really, because people can't go into public spaces. So I would say hospitality, food and beverage, arts and entertainment, and actually some tech as well has been hit really hard, where other industries have actually either remained stable or have come through and said, we need to hire more. Certainly pharma, medical, and healthcare are absolutely ramping up hiring. There's just a huge surge in need, and they're desperate for staff. Another piece would be nonprofit areas are still hiring and in need, and technology is absolutely coming back to us saying we need more help than we anticipated over the next year. I will say an interesting change too is that hiring is usually pretty formal, and there's a timeline. We know what businesses are recruiting in the fall. We know that education recruitment happens in the spring. We know startups come later in, usually April and May is when they recruit. And now that's kind of thrown out the window. We have employers coming back to us who ended their hiring back in October, who are now actually hiring again because they're seeing a need that they didn't anticipate. So I will say that's something to keep in mind too, is you might see some employers coming through that you normally would never see this time of year. But I absolutely encourage, if you're looking for a full-time position, there is a lot out there. As Stacy mentioned earlier, Handshake is our repository for all these opportunities. I checked this morning, there are over 8,000 full-time positions listed in Handshake right now that are active and currently hiring. We have a lot of opportunities that actually go without any applications. So I would certainly encourage you to go in and, those full-time jobs, just at a first glance, they're in education, they're in healthcare, they're in tech, they're in STEM fields as well. Engineering positions are certainly in there. There's research jobs available. And I know a lot of our student attendees today mentioned full-time jobs, but if you are interested in internships, there's almost 2,000 internships listed in Handshake right now as well. And those are in research areas, nonprofit, those are also in tech. So the industries have changed a lot, but I would really encourage you, if you're looking right now, take a look at Handshake and see what's in there. I will say your job search might not look the way you anticipated. And your first position outside of school may not be the exact one you had in mind when you started this academic year, but you can still certainly find employment. You can definitely find a paycheck, apply to some of these positions, and certainly utilize our office to make sure that when you are applying, your resume looks perfect. You're ready to do some networking to help land that position that you want. So I would encourage you to be flexible as our employers and our industries are flexing, flex with them. Maybe look at some industries you weren't originally considering, but absolutely spend some time in Handshake. Our industries are changing, but they are still looking for Bruins to hire.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle, for those encouraging words. It's great to have the facts to kind of lay the foundation. Kathy, building upon what Michelle shared, can you give us some tips for how students can conduct an effective job search and which resources they should be using within and beyond Handshake as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that conducting an effective job search is really multifaceted, right? There's no one right strategy that works, but you really do have to tailor the process to yourself. I think some of the basics are to remember that the job search is really a marathon, not a sprint. I think that sometimes people expend a lot of energy at one time, just rapidly applying to jobs, and then they burn out and they can't bring themselves to put the energy in again for like another week or two. And it's just not very effective simply because new opportunities are cropping up all the time. And so I think my top 3 tips for an effective job search are to stay organized, stay consistent, and maintain your overall physical and mental well-being so you don't burn out. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that, right? In terms of organization, you could easily build a Google Sheet where you're listing, you know, the position title, the company name, the link to apply, what the application materials you need, a notes column. You could even potentially label some of these positions so you have your tier 1 prime opportunities that you're very invested in, and you have your tier 2 opportunities that you're like, I could apply for that, you know, as a backup. And you can really effectively, you know, spend the majority of your time focusing on the positions that you're most invested in. And so I think, you know, with organization, it's really important to keep track of who you're in communication with, where you've applied, what you've submitted, simply because, you know, it's not uncommon for people to apply to 200+ jobs when they're in a full-time job search. And I want to put that out there, not to freak anybody out, but really to just normalize it, right? And it's also not unheard of for employers to simply kind of ghost you, and it's like you submit something and you just want to hear a yes or a no, but they may just not get back to you for months. And you know, what we encourage you to remember is just to be patient, because recruiters and talent acquisition professionals are also pretty hard hit right now. But the good news is that they are still building a talent pool. A lot of recruiters, even if companies have hiring freezes or furloughs, they are still gathering a talent pool from which to draw from when the time comes, right? And so if there are certain companies that you're really invested in, that you're really excited about working at potentially, connect with those recruiters. Don't be afraid to apply, simply because they are still looking and curating talent. I think some online resources that are really going to help, there's a couple. The first I would say is Focus 2. Focus 2 is a resource that you have access to through Handshake, which, as you know, is our one-stop shop platform for the Career Center. And it really allows you to clarify how your interests, values, and skills can intersect towards different careers. And what research tells us is that people are most satisfied in their careers when they're at a job that is at the intersection of their interests, values, and skills. And so it really begins with that self-reflection piece and identifying, you know, what are the most important things to me? What am I looking for in a job, in the responsibilities, in the environment, in the people that I surround myself with? The second resource that I really recommend people start looking into is Vault. It's another resource that you have free access to through Handshake, through the Career Center. If you try to Google it, it'll prompt you to pay, so please access it through Handshake. But it's really going to help candidates research industry areas and functional roles. I think a challenge that a lot of recent graduates have is that they don't know what to look for. Right? They're like, okay, I know I can go to Indeed and LinkedIn to look for job postings, but I don't know what keywords to search for. And so if you're one of those people, we highly recommend that you use Vault to do some research on different industries, the way they're structured, as well as different position titles and types within those industries. You can also use ONET. ONETonline.org is a great resource. It's essentially a database of job descriptions, and it has a lot of details about the typical work environment, the responsibilities, the type of education you'll need, median salary information. It has all of that. The other tip is to create specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. In other words, SMART goals, which I'm sure many of you have heard of before. But making sure that your goals are specific and you're able to measure your success and the trajectory of your success, making sure that they're realistic and achievable, relevant to your overall goals, and have a specific time limit is really going to help you make concrete moves when it comes to a job search. It can be really overwhelming, right? You think, oh, my end goal is I need a job. It's like, okay, that's great. But what are the mini steps, that mini goals you're going to need to achieve to get there? And then lastly, just create an accountability plan, whether it's, you pair up with somebody who's also looking for a full-time job, you seek out help from mentors, whatever works for you in making sure that you're staying on track and achieving your goals is really going to help you in conducting an effective job search.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kathy, for that very thorough and multifaceted response. Great tips for students to keep in mind if they're in the current job search. My next question I'd like to pose to Jordan. Can you please address how graduates can remain productive and position themselves for future opportunities if their primary industries of interest are particularly hard hit or just not hiring right now? What can they still be doing to move toward their goals?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for that question. I love the way that question is posed, by the way. It's such a positive, empowering way that you said that, because instead of asking, oh, how can I find any job because the industry I'm interested in isn't booming right now and I might as well give up on that, and focusing on the negative, you ask the question, how can I remain productive and position myself for future opportunities? And that's exactly the mindset that I think our students need to have as they face their job search, especially if one of the industries they're interested in isn't really hiring right now or is delayed in that hiring process. So here's the answer to that question, in my opinion. It's all about self-development, and I mean that personally and professionally. So we've talked a little bit about personal development, but let me encourage this for our students. This is a wonderful time to be developing daily positive habits of well-being. Daily positive habits of well-being. Because what you do daily matters much more than what you do every once in a while. So during this time, what can you be doing to work on your self-mastery? Really a key success skill if you're going to have a long-term success in your career. We talked about a marathon, not a sprint, keeping the idea that one day you will be successful in the industry you're interested in. And a lot of it begins with your self-mastery. So that means self-assessment, self-awareness, but also some of these well-being skills that you can develop in terms of a meditation practice, exercise, gratitude journals, doing something of service for someone, a little something each day. These are personal development skills that can really help your professional goals along the way. So let's get to the professional goals as well. So professionally developed, there's 3 different areas that I would recommend that you work on if you want to remain productive and position yourself for future opportunities. 1, stay sharp and build your skills. So this is your chance to really use online platforms like Coursera or edX to learn and grow your skill set and knowledge base in the industry that you eventually want to get into. This is a chance to research trends, be watching online webinars and all kinds of articles out there. Become your own version of an expert of the industry you hope to one day get into. You might want to take the opportunity to teach other people about the industry you're interested in as a way to really master the knowledge that you're intaking. The second thing you want to do is build your brand. This is a great chance to update and enhance your profiles on LinkedIn, on Handshake. Take a look at your social media platforms, and if somebody didn't know you but they came across your social media post, what would they think about you? What do they say about you? Write blog articles, update your resume and cover letter. This is a chance to really build your brand and feel confident about that, even if the industry you're interested in right now, again, isn't booming or hiring right this second. And then the third and probably most important professional development piece of advice I have is to online network. So this is your chance to do informational interviews, seek mentorship, use LinkedIn and the UCLA alumni page or ucla1.com to find people to ask during this time, what is the industry like? What recommendations would you have for me if I want to get into this field one day? What can I be doing now? What was your journey like? And this is a chance for you to gather as much information as possible while also building a bigger, more established network. And I'll close with this. This is a John Wooden quote that I really like. You can do nothing about tomorrow. It is yet to come. However, tomorrow is in large part determined by what you do today. So make today a masterpiece. You have control over that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jordan, for your inspirational words and your real focus on balance between personal and professional development, which you really can't do one effectively without the other. So thank you, Jordan. My next question will pertain to those students. I know we have several in the audience who are entering a gap year before entering graduate or professional school and or thinking about graduate and professional school in the future. So Precious, if you could please share what are some considerations students should keep in mind if they are considering entering graduate or professional school in the near future?
Okay, yes, thank you, Stacy. Well, not, on purpose. I came up with actually 5 P's that I think cover this question really well. So I would say that includes preparedness or preparation, passion, purpose, possibilities, and price. And so actually Jordan really set this up very well in terms of going into preparedness or preparation. Not that you have to be perfect to enter into, a graduate program, but it is extremely helpful to do that personal work ahead of time, to be prepared that you're going into it positive, that you're not just doing this as a move of desperation because, oh, the job market is not what I anticipated, so I'm just going to jump into some grad, program. And then, of course, he also covered some things related to other ways of studying and learning besides a degree program, but certainly you want to be prepared on a personal level, on an emotional, physical level, but then just in terms of the actual concrete pieces. So, Michelle mentioned timelines for recruiting for certain occupations. There are definite timelines for applying to certain graduate programs. So whether it's a doctoral program or master's programs, we know that it's, like a year-long process to apply for medical school. Many programs only accept students in the fall, although there are some that accept students different parts of the year. So you do have to prepare and know what those timelines are. And then also don't think that, it's necessarily an easier process than looking for or finding a job. Again, it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. If it's your passion, then I say go for it whenever you feel most prepared, or if you feel like that job market or timing is dictating that it's a good time for you to apply. So passion, it's going to be a considerable commitment and effort. There are shorter term options out there. New things are emerging. For instance, UCLA Law School just added a 1-year master's in legal studies program, but a law degree is 3 years. Most doctoral programs are 4 to 7 years, master's programs 2 to 3 years. So it takes considerable time and effort to earn a graduate degree. And hopefully most of it is fun. If you're a learner like me who would, love to be a professional student, hopefully the process is fun, you're enjoying learning, but not all of it is fun. But you do want to start with something that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, that you're not, doing it just to, open a door that you think it might open. So you really want to be targeted about what you're doing. So the possibilities, what kind of options will this, degree or certificate open for you? Have you evaluated those possibilities and options? So maybe instead of, earning that MD or medical degree, that's years of your life, if you're really passionate about, birthing children, maybe being a midwife is something that would be a great pathway for you. So what are the different options or possibilities and investment that it takes for the career that you want, or how you want to spend your time in life? There are so many graduate degree options. At UCLA alone, there's over 150 departments. There's over 40 languages that you can earn a degree in. So there are a multitude of options. I work a lot with pre-law students, but when students talk to me, some of the areas that they're interested in might be satisfied with a law degree or a master's in public policy. So I think Jordan mentioned LinkedIn and UCLA One. So I encourage students to go to those sources, look at some of those careers, and see the backgrounds of people who have pursued the careers in which they're interested. So there's lots of possibilities, and really connecting your passion and your purpose with that is something that you should evaluate. And then the price. So the actual price, the cost of tuition or living somewhere. So some people are like, they want to wait or defer when they can be on campus. For some people, it's a positive that they can maybe start their first semester or even a year virtually, where they can save on housing and do some other things. But there is, of course, a price tag. Again, don't let that be your only factor. There are scholarships out there. There are loan forgiveness programs, but you do want to take into consideration the price as well as the return on investment. So sometimes students are afraid of the price tag, but then when you look at sort of the return on investment, how long of a time that it might take to actually pay the loan back, usually for master's and doctoral degrees, there's a great return on investment. Someone already mentioned ONET. You can look on ONET and in labor statistics, and you'll see that the employment rate for master's degrees and higher is very high. When there's unemployment in challenging times, it's much lower for people with advanced degrees. So the return on investment usually is good. And sometimes employers are just looking for that advanced degree, not necessarily for a specific degree. So you can, really leverage that. But definitely you want to do your homework. You want to know that in challenging times, employers may be looking for that specific degree. So it becomes more competitive. So again, just broadly speaking, you want to consider how prepared you are, if you're ready for the deadlines, if you've studied for the exams, if you have the passion for it, what are the different possibilities, what's the purpose for you, and what's that sort of, price tag and return on investment going to be.
Excellent. Sorry, thank you so much, Precious. That was a really helpful framework for students to consider whether graduate or professional school is the right option for them at this time. We are running just a few minutes behind schedule, but we don't have a lot of questions in the Q&A, so I did still want to end with our final question, but maybe we'll make it like a lightning round real quick. If anybody has one tip to offer on this question, feel free to just pop in there. We'll just do popcorn style if you have one thought related to this final question. So for students whose number one priority is earning an immediate income, how do you recommend that they approach their immediate job search while not losing sight of their longer term career goals? So if they just need money now and that's the number one priority, how do they balance that with also keeping an eye on the future?
I definitely have a couple of tips for you all. So first of all, figure out what your baseline is, right? At the end of the career guide, the UCLA Career Center produced a career guide. You all have access to it through our website. There's a budget worksheet at the back. Figure out what is the base amount of income I need to be earning in order to survive, and that'll give you your bottom line for the salary you need to be making. That practical consideration is really important to pinpoint right off the bat. Because you need to know when you're looking at job postings, when they offer a salary range, if it's going to meet your needs. The other thing is to really focus on your transferable skills. That first job you're going to get is not going to be the end all be all, right? You may be in it for, a couple of months or up to a year, but you will have the opportunity to get to another job. Focus on what skills you have now and where you might be able to apply them, or in what types of positions you might be able to apply them.
Yeah, I have a couple of tips to add to that as well. So, in terms of emerging careers and trends, we know that we'll see more of like a gig economy, short-term things. So, you may look to gain income by leveraging certain skills for short-term projects. Also, again, just being flexible. Kathy already talked about transferable skills. So maybe you have, great quant skills, but maybe it's not going to be used in your dream company right now, but you can use those skills in an area that really can use your skills now. So whether that's doing modeling in the public health realm with quant skills, or maybe it's doing marketing in one of those areas that are booming right now. So just being really flexible about the environment and looking at maybe short-term gigs and temp agencies.
Yeah, I'll just quickly second that about Precious. I think these short-term projects are great. You can get money in your pocket. Feel free to have a day job that maybe isn't related to your long-term goals. There's a lot of project-based opportunities. Yeah, temp work, clerical things, data entry jobs, things to put money in your pocket so that you don't have to worry about your basic needs. And then focusing on long-term, you could be doing virtual, informational interviews with people in your field. You could be just working on your LinkedIn and networking with staff. You could do virtual job shadowing for a day with someone who's working in the field that you're interested in. So while you're getting your work done and getting a paycheck, just try to build some time in to do some research on your field or do some networking. And I think that will help you feel like you got something done, either at least over the summer or the next few months, while you're just focusing on making sure that you can pay your bills, you've got food to eat and shelter, and your basic needs are being met. There's still a lot of those opportunities in Handshake as well, for those project-based jobs or temp work, clerical things, data entry, graphic design, whatever sorts of projects you feel like you can contribute to get an hourly rate. There's definitely stuff in there for you.
Those are fantastic, Michelle. And I would say that for those of you who are concerned about taking on some opportunities that are completely unrelated to your long-term goal, I'll say that very few careers are linear these days. So many skills are transferable, and most employers know that during this time in the world that many students and recent grads are going to have to do what they have to do just to make money for a little bit of time. So it's going to be very understandable. And also, as far as money is concerned, if you've never met with a financial planner or ever taking any financial literacy online courses, this could be a great time to see how to make the current money you have work for you, even if it's a small pile right now.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for those really, I think, reassuring tips that there's still so much opportunity out there, and also really practical strategies and concrete tools. I'm hopeful that the students are gaining a lot from this. We don't have a lot of questions in the Q&A, so I will read the one that is in there currently, but I also encourage any students who are still on. We'll be taking questions until about 1:30, so please go ahead and enter. If there's anything lingering that you wanted clarification on, or you wanted a deeper dive, or something else that wasn't addressed, please enter it in the Q&A and we'll be sure to address it. Right now, the question that is in the queue is regarding graduate school. So generally, would employers regard your graduate school differently if they know that you completed your degree by taking classes online due to COVID? For example, I'm thinking of engineering, where much of grad school could be hands-on labs. How do employers regard the online format of graduate school?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, this environment right now is really fluid. There's a lot of uncertainties, and there are people that are predicting that now that classes are going online out of necessity, that grad degrees online may be viewed differently. So whereas the sort of value of certain grad degree programs that were online may not have been viewed in the same way, that landscape may be changing. I think certainly, just like any degree, whether it's online or in person, it will depend on where you're earning that graduate degree. So I think that's very important. And then I think employers understand that if it's, not possible to, complete that degree in person, that online is a very valuable experience. I think it also depends on how universities are pivoting with those online degrees. I know that UCLA is doing very well with incorporating even some of the hands-on kinds of things, and looking at ways to adapt using cameras or additional cameras to do some of the modeling and having some of the processes. So I think that employers will be, taking those things into consideration. But in terms of having a hard and fast answer, since this is fluid and emerging, that is going to vary from employer to employer, from recruiter to recruiter. But again, if you're working on that degree at a reputable university like UCLA, I think employers will definitely understand, and that you can still gain those skills while you're at home or virtual in different ways, and that professors in the universities are adapting very well to how they can incorporate technology and gaining those skills.
Thank you, Precious. I love this next question. So anyone who has insights, feel free to chime in. How can you determine what your skills are and if any are transferable?
I'll kick us off, and then lots of people can chime in if you want. First of all, you can set up a career counseling appointment and work with a career educator. And through some of the assessments we have, through conversation, we can help you get a little more clarity in terms of what your top skills and strengths are. There's definitely a number of appointments available. If you go into Handshake, you will see those. And then you can also think about doing some research at what are the top skills in demand right now. In fact, according to the Future of Jobs World Economics Forum, the top 3 skills right now are complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. So you can just ask yourself right now, do you have those skills? And I can assure you that by getting yourself through UCLA, you probably have those skills, and they're definitely transferable. And the other thing you can do is start looking at job descriptions that you see on Handshake and identifying the key skills that are being asked of most opportunities. And then you could talk to people close to you who know you best and ask them, do you believe I have any of these strengths, or what do you believe are my top skills or strengths? And you'll probably notice that a lot of the things that they tell you are mentioned in several different job postings in a lot of different industries.
That's a great strategy, Jordan. I really love that. So connecting with the people that you do have that can give you insight and who know you. But, you know, I would say some examples of transferable skills might be some of those softer skills, the more intangible type of skills. So, you know, communication skills, so whether that's verbal or written communication, analytical skills, leadership, right, teamwork, collaboration skills. So these are the skills that are a little more intangible and difficult to kind of quantify, right? But they are so present in a lot of different types of jobs and careers and across all industries. So for example, I work with a lot of students who had service industry jobs. Maybe they were a customer service representative, maybe they were a cashier. And these are very common. People have these types of jobs, right, before their first full-time job. And they oftentimes struggle to translate that. And what I like to really emphasize in this example, you know, say you were applying to a marketing coordinator position. When you're in a service industry job, for example, you have to be able to quickly pick up on different communication styles that your clients might have. You might have to be able to provide tailored suggestions, right, to them. You might have to tailor your own communication style. You might have to practice conflict resolution skills and mediation skills. All of these things are applicable to being a marketing coordinator, where you're going to be having to work in a very fast-paced environment with a lot of different people, and also understanding different populations and what their needs are and what their perspectives are is another aspect of, you know, these two jobs that are very similar, right? So start thinking about, in the experience that I have, what are some of the skills that can be applied in other settings? So that's what we ultimately mean by transferable skills.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We've had a few new questions come in, so in the interest of time, I want to move on to another question in the queue. So if anyone has any tips on how to succeed at a virtual internship during the summer, I would say this could also go if students are entering a new virtual job. So how to make the most of a virtual opportunity. The student says, my main concern is that it will be difficult for me to ask questions if I'm stuck on a project, and I don't want to come off as not knowing anything, especially because I am a new intern. So any tips for navigating a virtual position effectively?
I just want to pipe in too and say that a lot of these internships that you guys are doing virtually were not intended to be done virtually. So I say that to mean that the employer might also be figuring it out as well. They might have a decade-long, agenda and a format and a way that they intended to onboard you that they're having to retool. So just as you're learning how to be a good virtual intern, they're learning how to be a good virtual supervisor. One big thing that we always want to remind you about internships is that the entire purpose of it is for you to learn. It is not for you to be a contributor on the same level as a full-time staff member making a salary. The definition of an internship is that you are getting more out of the opportunity than the employer is making off of your efforts, right? So you're there to learn. And your question is a really good one. How do you ask for help? How do you say that you're stuck on something? And that's a great question for you to ask right when you start. What's the best way for me to ask questions? What's the best way for me to communicate if I'm stuck on a project? The employer might not have even thought of, oh, you know what, I have to set up a new way for us to communicate about stuff like this. And it would be really impressive if you actually came up with suggestions. Say, you know what, I'm really good at Slack. Is that something that your office uses? Or, you know what, I noticed you guys use Gmail for your office. Are you open to using GChat? If I have a quick question, what's the best way for me to talk to you about what I need? I guarantee you they're going to be open to that. They would love to get your feedback. But even just asking that question shows that you're really preemptively thinking about your role and how you can really succeed in the opportunity. So don't be afraid to ask questions. That's your job as an intern, is to do that. But I just want to say too, like, they're definitely still figuring it out. If this is not an opportunity that was always virtual, they are learning in real time. And so think of it as a collaborative process, how you together can figure out the best way to have a virtual opportunity. But don't feel worried that you're supposed to know everything. If you knew how to do everything already, it wouldn't be an internship and you wouldn't probably want to do it anyway. So just have a clear, open communication with your employer, and that's a great thing to ask right when you get started.
Thank you so much. And we have 2 questions in the queue, which I'd like us to try to get to in the next 4 minutes. So the first one is, how should you respond when you're asked what your biggest weakness is? So any tips on how to answer the weakness question in an interview?
Well, that's certainly a classic one. And since we know it's a classic one, that we should have time to prepare and reflect, right? And so having a weakness is human, right? And being aware of that weakness shows that you've done some insight and you're aware of things that you need to, work on or gain improvement. A lot of us that like to soften that question reframe it as what's a lesser strength or what's something you need to work on. So maybe in terms of thinking about it in that way, will help you to answer that question and make the question less intimidating. And then I think with that, the emphasis, or maybe not the emphasis, but part of it being how you have worked on it. So don't wait for the employer to have that follow-up question in terms of what have you done. Be prepared with that answer already in terms of your awareness of that lesser strength or weakness, some things that you've done to mitigate it or to work on it. And then just being, authentic about it. Yes, there are people who are actually perfectionists out there. There are people who are workaholics out there and who have that perfect weakness. But what's something that's, authentic that you can speak about in a way that shows insight. I mean, you don't want to just be like, oh, I'm a big procrastinator, so, you may not want to have that level of, honesty, but it's, how you frame it. Maybe you're focused on the big picture first, or, or there's some other way that you can frame a weakness that isn't coming across as what you deem like politically correct or something that's really going to be devastating for the position. And then if your weakness is something that doesn't, fit the job, then maybe it's also cause for reevaluating the kinds of positions for which you're applying. So, you want to think of your strengths and weaknesses as well in the context of the kinds of positions and projects that you're seeking.
Thank you so much, Precious. And that brings us to the last question in the queue, and then we will close it out. So and this is such a common question, I'm so glad somebody asked this. A lot of job postings ask for a certain amount of experience in the field, but I can't gain experience until I get a job. How do I navigate this problem?
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, that you all have a lot more experience under your belt than you think. I think there's this misconception that experience means paid working experience, and that doesn't always have to be the case. Experience comes in a lot of forms, right? What delineates an experience from, say, just participation or engagement in something is whether you had responsibilities, right? Especially those that are relevant to the position that you're applying for. And so, for example, if you were in a leadership position at a student org, or even if you didn't have an official title, but you contributed a lot of your time and your energy in whatever initiatives that they had going on, that is something you could include as an experience. And so I encourage you all to reframe the way that you're viewing experience, because it's very likely that you've overlooked some that you didn't formally consider. Anybody else have any insight?
Sure, I'd love to add to that. Don't overlook your academic experience. all parts of campus. And I would like to say, especially for North Campus, don't overlook your experience. And so you may need to frame that in a skills section, in a content knowledge section. Maybe, your certain area of studies might be very relevant to the type of marketing that you're doing. So there's content knowledge, transferable skills, regardless of your major. So do not undervalue the time that you're spending in the university, your research work that you're doing, its experience. Come visit us and drop in for ways to frame that experience as well.
All right, thank you all so much. This was a very robust discussion, and thank you to our remaining attendees. We really appreciate you taking this time out to really focus on yourself and setting yourself up for success. And I just want to reiterate that we are here for you, the Career Center and CAPS, and please continue to utilize our services. Come in, work with us. We can help you through your internship, your job search, your long-term or short-term career planning. Sometimes you just need somebody, unbiased, who isn't, directly involved in your life to help give you some clear guidance in how to navigate your next steps. So please, we are available to you, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, and congratulations on graduating.